Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be sharing with you my typical warm-up routine. And not just the specific routine and exercises, but also how I think about it. Also, welcome to the first video of this series, which I'm going to be calling Lessons from the Road. And that's just an attempt to kind of make more videos when I'm traveling. So there's usually a lot of dead time, and a lot of times that can be filled with just excessive practicing, which we all know can be unhealthy sometimes. I wanted to include that these exercises aren't ones that I've been doing for the past 5 years of my life, and I probably won't do them 5 years from now exactly like this. These are just the exercises and warm-ups I've been doing lately, I'd say the past 6 to 8 months, and a lot of them come from my lessons in Alicante, Spain, the technique workshops that David Russell taught us. A lot of them made a lot of sense to me, and I've just been writing with those, and I've been noticing some really good results. So I just want to share those with you and add to that. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and hello from Louisville, Kentucky. Okay, so first things first is our sound. This is the first impression we have on the audience or whoever we're playing for, and it's just so crucial to work on our sound because as soon as you stop thinking about it or focusing on it, it gets worse, and your ear adjusts to it. So let me just talk about a few ways that I work on sound. So each morning I start with doing open strings on the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string. And I start with just my I finger. Now you'll notice on the 1st string here, it has a little bit of a brightness ring to it. Too many high overtones, so I'm going to fix my nail and I'll get right back. So in this super specific situation, I think it's like my slope is too high, so I'm going to work on that a second. I apologize for the angle of filming from my knee. Okay, so we're back now and let's try it again. I'm much happier with that sound. A very small difference. Okay, so maybe some small adjustments to still make, but I just want to show you that example of how I work on my nails in the morning and make sure that my sound is good. So let's try my M finger. Okay, my M finger is way too bright. You notice here, it sounds really warm, but on the 1st string, it's not that bad, but it's the same sort of issue with my eye nail, I think. I'm going to adjust that, and I'll try it in a second. Much better now. It's not perfect, but it might also have to do with sound production. In the morning, I'm really trying to focus on pressing the string in, like this. Although, in the morning, it's harder to feel that right away, so I try not to make too big of adjustments on my nail, but just micro adjustments. So I'm going to move to my A finger now. And I apologize, by the way, if I use a little bit of bad technique here by lifting my fingers. This is just so you can see my nail and my actual finger that's moving. Also, I'm holding the phone with my other hand, so this is really difficult. I would never raise my fingers this high, I would do this. But so you can see it. Okay, pretty happy with how my A finger sounds. Now let's test the thumb. So I'm first going to check the rest stroke sound and see if it gets caught. Now I'm really happy with that sound. Let's try free stroke. Okay. Sorry, I don't have my other hand to mute the sympathetic harmonics. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's try the 3rd string. Wow. So this rarely happens for me. I usually have to adjust my nail when I come to 3rd string, but I'll make some small adjustments. But that's basically it in how I start the morning. I try to go through this quite a few times on each string. I usually do 4 notes per string and do this a couple of times with each note. Okay, left hand. This is what I do, and you'll see this is really common with string instruments, and violinists do this all the time. I go to 5th position, and I just put my first finger down, not squeezing, but just setting it on the string, and I tap the 6th fret. I usually tap 8 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I move to the next string. Now this trains 2 things. It trains accuracy of where your fingers are landing, and it also starts the day without you squeezing too much. Because you're not going for volume here, you're not trying to do like a good hammer-on sound. Okay, so now I'm going to move to my 2nd finger on the 6th fret, and I'm tapping onto 7th with my 3rd finger here. So you want to make sure you're on your fingertip and that you're rhythmically even. Now typically I go a little bit faster than that, and maybe on a couple of frets, but I'm making this shorter just to show you. So now I'm going to the 7th fret with my 3rd finger, and I'm tapping onto the 8th. It's important to note where you typically make mistakes, like tapping the wrong fret or hitting an excess string. Because that's usually where it occurs in your playing also. Typically, you're going to be weakest on your 3rd to 4th finger taps. So at this point, I also go through 2-4 and 1-3, and also 1-4. These are all super common occurrences in your playing, so I recommend doing those also. Next, back to right hand. Now, this next one's important because it's about agility, not strength, which is one of the mantras that David Russell was always talking about, which is the morning is for agility, not strength. If you didn't see my previous video before on it, you can click the link down here and you'll be able to see it. So this next part, agility. And we're talking about speed here, but it's not something that you have to work on. It's not speed that you're building. It's just a feeling that you're accessing. I know that's a little confusing. But here is where I go, I just do a really quick, like a flam. Like you see when drummers play, it's taka, taka. It's like one hand falling next to each other, just one after the other. It's not thinking like, how fast can I slam my hand down right after one hits? It's more like letting them fall one after another. So that's what we're thinking about when we're playing here, with starting on the first string. Right? So then we do it on the second. And this time I'm starting each one prepared with my I finger already ready to play, setting on the string. Then to the third string. I also try resting my thumb different places, making sure I can execute that no matter where my thumb's resting. Then the first string. Alright, so this isn't about doing like as many times as possible here. It's more like just accessing that feeling and being able to stay relaxed. I'm paying attention to my shoulders, my neck. I'm making sure I'm not doing this, you know. Just trying to stay relaxed and just make myself feel that these little flams are easy. It's just an easy little motion. It's not speed. I'm not thinking about playing fast. It's just letting one finger slide through after the next. So then I do MI instead of IM. And after that, I do MA, which this is all the first time I'm doing these today, so I apologize if they're a little inconsistent, but that's what we're working on here. Okay, those weren't the greatest, so I'm going to do that one again. And this is what I typically do. I typically do the ones that are more difficult or I have a harder time with more than once. So let's try that again. It's like waking up a reflex. It's not about strength or skill. So this one was a lot more consistent. I would typically do that probably one more time, but for the sake of time, I'm going to move to AM. This one should be a little bit more intuitive since it's a pretty typical pattern compared to MA, which is the opposite direction of tremolo. Now we're moving back to left hand. Fifth position, just like we were doing before, and similar to how we were just doing this in the right hand, and making it just feel like one motion and relaxed and just a reflex. We're going to do that with just little mordents here. So we're going to go 5th fret to 6th and back to 5th. So A sharp, A. Now when you're doing this, I don't want you to think 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't want you to think like this, because what that does is keeps you in this rhythm that makes you think like, okay, I got to keep up, I got to stay strong, I got to build muscle. That's not what we're doing here. We're building a reflex. So if it takes you to go breathing with really inconsistent timing, then that's totally fine, really. So I'm just going to keep it somewhat in time here to show you how I work on it. So now we'll move to 2-3. Okay, now we move to 3-4. So I would go through 1-3, 2-4, and 1-4 typically. All right, you guessed it, back to right hand. Similar to what we were doing in the left hand, where we had these 3-note mordents. In the right hand, we're going to now be doing 3 notes, but it's still going to be feeling like a reflex, okay? That's important. And these are difficult in the beginning, but as long as you take your time in between repetitions, they'll get better and better. So we're going to go I-my. Okay, now for MIM. Okay, now we're going to go MAM. These are the ones that I typically do a few times to get the reflex. remember, we're not necessarily trying to keep this in time. We're trying to take our time in between each to make sure we get the reflex. For me, that one's the most difficult, so in a normal situation, I do that several times. After that, I do AMI. Then it's kind of nice to do IMA. Which is always a little bit more difficult, since it's not a common pattern, but I find that if I'm warmed up, I can do IMA pretty consistent. Okay, back to left hand. Here I do the same sort of thing where you have 3 notes, except now I'm going to do all hammer-on, so it's going to be like this. This is something that David Russell showed us. Just further along the ornament, you know. Next I do 1, 2, 4. Maybe in a different position. Not even necessarily the same spacing between frets. Then you can do something like 1, 2, 3. And remind yourself to relax your shoulders. Breathe. None of this should be painful, although it might take you a little bit to build the basic muscles to do things like this. So then I do 2, 3, 4. This is a really nice one. So from there I do a little bit more complex of a slur exercise here. Another little thing David Russell showed us was to do this 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 1, 3, 4. A typical kind of like cadential trill that you would do. But you do this in different positions, following a key. And to do different keys all the time. It's a nice little way to feel warmed up with your trills, and it sounds nice. It's kind of fun. Okay, so the next thing I do is a couple, maybe 2 or 3 Giuliani studies. In this example, I'm just going to show you number 25. It goes between, of course, C to B7. And what I'm paying attention to is that every finger is sequentially prepared. So once my P finger plucks, my I plants, I plucks, M plants, this type of thing. But I'm especially careful with my thumb because my thumb's gotten the least amount of work so far. My thumb's not sounding so great on the trebles anymore, so it's about time to do an adjustment. And I try to get that going pretty fast after I feel comfortable. I'm going to adjust my thumb just a little bit. I think I know the tip that's catching, and I'm going to make a better thumb sound. Much better. From there you can do one where M repeats, which is like P, M, A, M, P, M, P, M, A, M. It's the same exercise, but doing M, A instead of I, M. Okay, so from then on out, there's a whole slew of exercises that you can do. You can find pumping nylon, you can find Ricardo Isniola's book, you can look up classical guitar warm-ups online. There's a ton of them out there. But what I wanted to share with you is kind of what my principle was, and also how my lessons with David Russell added to my understanding of warming up in the morning. To conclude this, I think it's important to note that the way I conceived warming up years ago was how to start getting your fingers moving and strengthening, and sort of this weird technical idea. Whereas now I think of it more of a neurological idea, where you're trying to refine a reflex that clearly comes from your brain and not from the strength of your fingers. So if you're thinking about an adjustment you're making in your brain that then goes to your fingers, when you're starting your practice sessions or when you're starting the day with the guitar, I think it goes a lot further, and you really set up the framework to become a better guitarist rather than a stronger one. So I hope this helped you in some way. If it did, leave a comment, make sure to like the video, and definitely subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.